Hi. So we're doing a book review now. Yeah, I don't know what this channel is either. But considering that my 21 Pilots content has been popping off lately, I thought I would take the time to review this little book right here. This might be backwards for you, but the title of this book is The Only Band in the World, Stories and Conversations with 21 Pilots. This book just recently dropped about mid to late 2024, and it was highly anticipated because we never really had a proper 21 Pilots book. Obviously, we've had interviews and the lot, but this book seemed like something more complete. Because the author of this book, Ryan Bird, actually worked with Rock Sound, which is a music journalism company, and he has been following the band since pretty much the start. In the early chapters of this book, he remembers seeing them play in really small venues and being shocked at how many of the fans knew every single word. And despite the band being so obscure at the time, he describes just how viscerally excited and involved and passionate the fans were since the start. And in that way, this book really is a testament to the force and the power that this band holds. The music this band creates is extremely special and sacred to its fans, and I think Ryan Bird does a great job of illustrating that. And he has a lot of ethos in being able to tell this story, not only because he's been following the guys around for this long, but because Tyler and Josh themselves have given their graces to Ryan Bird to write this book, and have even contributed a foreword and an afterword in this book. Josh Dunn's foreword kind of talks about him getting into drums and struggling to open up and using drums as a medium to express himself, but that Ryan Bird actually gave them the platform and the environment where they can actually open up about their creative process like they do in these interviews. And Tyler pretty much reiterates the same thing in the afterword, how Ryan Bird has been an attentive listener and always been in the band's corner. So in terms of pure ethos, I don't think there's many authors that are as well equipped as Ryan Bird to talk about this band. So the way the book is structured is essentially a series of vignettes, pun intended, of different points in the band's career. I will say the different points feel a little bit random. Some of the interviews take place after an album's released at different points or right before an album's released. It is told chronologically though, and I think that makes sense for this book. Though these vignettes do feel sort of more like snapshots of how the band have evolved and how they think about their craft over time, rather than a deep dive into what each era meant and what it represented, and specifically the album creation process. But also at the end of the book, Ryan Bird devotes a couple chapters to leftover interviews that don't finish the book in a chronological way. They just kind of feel like an afterthought. I feel like those interviews would have fit better if he just placed them in their respective chronological order, even if they weren't in the same style or format. And while Ryan Bird does admit right up front that this isn't the 21 Pilots book, it's not the story of the band, because while this book does span most of the band's career, these are interviews taken from the past. This is merely a collection of interviews that Ryan Bird assembled. And so it's not the in-depth documentary style, biography of the band that maybe some people were hoping it to be. And that's where I think this subtitle is really important, Stories and Conversations with 21 Pilots. And I'll be honest, this isn't a satisfying retelling of the band's career. Instead, this gives you insight into how the band were feeling at each point in their lives, how they're handling fame, how they feel about their own music. And although I do wish these interviews went into more depth about the actual album creation process, I think these interviews are supposed to be more inspiring to young musicians while giving some insight into people's favorite band. And the book really is sweet. It's heartfelt and it's genuine. In fact, the chapter that I enjoyed most from this book actually wasn't really about the band at all. It's one of the only few newly written passages for this book, and it's a chapter where Ryan Bird talks about 21 Pilots' cover of Cancer. Because at the time, Ryan Bird had been compiling an MCR, The Black Parade, covers album from different popular bands at the time to celebrate that album's anniversary. And in that chapter, he gets really personal about his diagnosis and the crushing weight that put on him, and how the process of selecting bands to be on this cover album kind of helped him, and how 21 Pilots was the perfect fit to cover Cancer, and how their cover was an evolution of the song rather than just a straight cover, and that it took on a brand new meaning for him. That chapter was really written from the heart, and it shows. I think it's honestly the standout chapter, even though it's the least about the band. And to be honest, I'm not really sure if that's a compliment or not, because after all, the book is supposed to be about 21 Pilots, but that part was really well done. In terms of grammatical stuff, Ryan Bird himself admits to not really being an avid writer. And as the pencil-pushing English major that I am, I did notice that some sentences felt a little awkward and disjointed, and the writing wasn't the best. It's still entirely readable, but by my nitpicking eyes, it could have been better. I think the biggest pros of this book is that it's a genuine reflection of the band, and that it's really interesting interesting to see the band grapple with fame and how they evolved over the years. And in that way, I think this book is a really cool item to have if you are a 21 Pilots fan. But the biggest con of this book, or I guess more accurately, collection of interviews, is that I genuinely don't see anyone outside of the realm of 21 Pilots fans enjoying this book. It is extremely self-congratulatory. It's very self-referential. You kind of have to know the band a little bit to really get an appreciation out of this book. From an outsider's perspective, this isn't going to tell you the story of the band. It may be interesting to read how two young musicians suddenly got thrust into the spotlight and how they're dealing with fame and the creative process and how they became pretty much the biggest band on the planet. But this book kind of reads as one big cheerleading session for the band. So overall, I liked this book more than I didn't. I did think it was insightful and inspiring, though I don't think there's an appeal for this book outside of 21 Pilots fans. So that's going to do it for my review of The Only Band in the World. If you want to see more book reviews, I don't know, leave a like. I'm gonna eat this, okay?